How's it going, people? In this video I'm going to show you the cheapest interior lighting solution for the dashboard of your car. As part of the Pointless Polo project, I'm redesigning the interior of Penny, my VW Polo 9N, to have a blue theme throughout. The main purpose of this project is to keep costs to an absolute minimum, partially because it will prove you can make your boring cars slightly more interesting for very little money, and partially because I'm super poor right now and trying to save for a proper project car in the long run. As you will likely know, interior lighting comes as standard in many luxury new cars like Jags, BMWs and Audis, but even new Minis have some pretty cool lighting solutions. It's pretty faddy and entirely useless, but everyone kinda loves it still. Lighting strips for car interiors start at around £6 if you want to buy one from the UK on eBay, with more sophisticated kits going for around £10 to £15. You can get sketchy ones from China for around £4, but I'm not sure I trust those. I decided that £6 was too expensive, and 2 months was too long to wait for a random Chinese one to turn up. And irrespective of all of that, I like keeping the cigarette lighter hatch closed on the Polo as it's one of the only moving parts in the car, and it looks much cleaner when it's shut. So, for £2.50, I have found a makeshift solution for interior dashboard lighting that is almost, but not entirely, completely unlike the other options mentioned. I'll show you how to acquire and install the parts required for this easy job and tell you the pros and cons compared with a kit you can buy from eBay or Amazon or whatever. If you enjoy the video, you can show your support by liking the video, commenting to let me know your thoughts on this creative lighting solution, and hitting the subscribe button, and clicking the bell icon to stay up to date on the Pointless Polo project, as well as my other car related videos. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the video. So rather than using the standard lighting strips mentioned, take a trip to Primark and for £2.50 you can buy 40 blue battery powered fairy lights. These tick all the boxes for me as they are cheap, blue, and don't use my cigarette lighter, but a few other colours are available. I think the blue fairy lights are actually the least intense, as other colours, like pink for example, seem to have a much stronger colour, but for such a low price I don't mind too much. To complete this modification you'll also need duct tape or gaffer tape or any strong adhesive tape that will cover the wires and keep the lights firmly attached to the dashboard, as you don't really want them falling on top of your feet whilst you're driving. Also, the more out of sight the lights are, the cleaner they look. As I'm planning to wrap parts of the interior in carbon fibre, which will be done in an upcoming video, I don't mind too much about letting the duct tape appear in a few areas. For the cleanest look, you could consider getting a wrap for your car interior too that will cover any nasty bits of duct tape that stick out. To start with, firmly attach the battery box to the passenger footwell using the duct tape. This is only a temporary solution until I wrap this part of the car. Obviously, by duct taping this part of the battery box, you can't replace the batteries easily in the long run, so if you're not planning on wrapping this part of the car later, just get some double-sided tape to stick it to the same place. Following this, you need to feed the cable along the underside of the passenger side dashboard, sticking it down section by section using the duct tape. Since I bought the 40 light pack from Primark, I was able to feed it back and forth around 4 times before I had to move on to the next side. For £1.50 you could get the 20 light pack instead. Make sure you cover the stalks of the fairy lights and only leave the bulbs on display. For the cleanest look, you also need to ensure the lights are invisible to the driver and passenger, so try sitting in both seats to see if the lights are visible. Remember that in my case, I'm going to be wrapping over the duct tape, so I'm not too bothered about it sticking out, but I still wanted it to be mostly invisible. Feeding it across the centre console is slightly more difficult. I first tried going under the main dashboard section, but it looked a bit weird, so I scrapped that and fed it under the panels instead. These will all be wrapped in carbon fibre in the long run, so again I wasn't too bothered about the duct tape sticking out of the sides. I then did the same thing on the right hand side of the dashboard, turning the lights off and on every so often to make sure the lights were bright enough, but also invisible when sitting in the driver's and passenger seats. And that was pretty much it. You can see here what it looks like. Not really the same as standard LED strip interior lighting, but its effect is not dissimilar. Not sure if I'll keep it in the long run, but as a cheap and temporary solution, I'm not unhappy with it. Now onto the pros and cons. For the pros, it's a cheaper option than any other interior lighting I could find. And I'd say at least as a temporary option, it gives you a good idea as to whether or not you want to upgrade to a full LED strip in the long run. Also, if you wanted to cover more sections of the footwell with these lights, you have the option to do so, which you wouldn't with a standard LED strip. The main pro for me, however, is the fact that I don't have to use up my cigarette lighter, which allows the car to look cleaner overall and leaves the lighter to be used for charging phones or sat-navs or whatever. In terms of the cons, installation took me about 45 minutes, which is much longer than the LED strips. The lights are nowhere near as bright or intense as the standard LED strip, so it has much more of an impact at night than during the day. I also found it quite difficult to evenly spread the lights out, so some sections appear to have more lighting than others. The final con for me is how it comes across the center console. If I decide to keep this setup, I may change it by feeding the wires behind the panels to make it look and feel cleaner. But overall, I think this is at least a creative solution to something that wasn't really even an issue in the first place, but as with everything in the Pointless Polo project, it's all fun and games. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give the video a like, comment down below to let me know your thoughts on this ridiculous lighting solution, and subscribe to see where the Pointless Polo project goes next. As I've now finished university, I've got a lot of plans for future videos, so make sure you stick around for those. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Listen!